For 40 years, I was an avid motorcycle rider. Then, on April 2nd, 2019, it all changed. I was in a tragic motorcycle accident. I broke my neck in 3 places, broke my back in 2 places, broke both of my arms. My pelvis was broken into 7 places, and I bled out once from internal organ issues. I was in the hospital for over 8 months and had 9 surgeries. That was then. Now, as I have been a real estate agent since 2003, I have returned to selling homes without being able to enter any of them as I am in a wheelchair. Even with all that 2020 has brought on, I see the positivity and keep moving forward.
Hey, hello St. Louis and Metro East Rail Producers, Realtors, and Partners. I'm excited to be seeing you on November 18th and sharing my story and getting to know you all just a little bit more. Have a great day, everyone.
So we are going to go to Arnold. I'm going to read a little recap that he had sent to me of what his story is and who he is. And I'm just going to read about what he had written me. So he says, I've been a full realtor in the Columbus market since 2003, and my family relocated from Connecticut when my wife was offered an amazing position with a large national retail company. In support of her, I gave up my career as a union pipe fitter, and we moved. In the past 17 years, I had built a modest-sized team for several years. I later went on to manage a real estate office of 125 agents. After some time of management and mentoring, I realized my passion was in sales, and I went back to selling homes. I had been an avid motorcycle rider for nearly 40 years when I was in a tragic motorcycle accident on April 2nd, 2019. I was struck by a distracted driver and was permanently paralyzed from my chest down. I'm a quadriplegic and confined to a wheelchair. I spent 8 months and 3 days in a hospital bed before I went home. During my time in the hospital, I had 9 surgeries, 20 procedures, and flatlined 3 times. I broke my neck in 3 places, broke my back in 2 places, broke both arms, broke my pelvis in 7 places, and bled out once as I had internal organ issues as well. My story is about how I dealt with the adversity, the physical and mental pain, but yet still had a positive attitude. I've gone back to selling homes and closing deals in the past months and have found a way to be involved in my real estate world without being able to enter any home due to being in a wheelchair. During my initial months of hospitalization, I started a nonprofit called Arnold's Ride. We raise money to help others in need who are also spinal cord injury people. You can go to arnoldride.org for more information. And we are going to have a slide at the end of the presentation so you can connect, you can donate, you could just read more about it. So we are happy and very honored to have you, Arnold. We have heard your message before, Nick and I, and we were very impressed. And I just feel like anytime I think I'm having a bad day, I think of you and you're amazing. So you inspire so many people. So please share us your story.
Well, I hope you think of me when you're having a good day too.
I do.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Arnold DeSena, and I want to thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to meet you and talk with you. A lot of people find my story fascinating. I think it's kind of boring and it's kind of a bummer for the most part, but at the end of the story, it's kind of uplifting from what I've been told. So I want to apologize for my voice. I'm recovering from an additional surgery I had several weeks ago. I had a tracheotomy tube removed, and normally that heals in 3 to 4 days. It took mine 14 months before I had to have it sewn up, so I'm still recovering from that. So I apologize, and I sip water quite a bit. So don't let my quirks distract you. So like Diane had said, I became a realtor in 2003. I was a union pipe fitter all of my life. I started off building nuclear submarines for about 7 years, went off into the building trades, building casinos, hotels. schools, hospitals, things like that. We relocated out here in support of my wife's career, and I decided to give my body a break and do something different. And I got into real estate, thinking I could use my commercial construction skills in helping my clients understand what they were getting into when they built a home or they purchased an existing home. So I leaned on that strength to help people. Um, had a good business going. The first few years, like everybody else, it's rough, it sucks. Um, got things going, started to build a small team, had success there. The company here in Columbus that I was with um, had tapped me to look into managing their number 4 office. We had about 120 active agents. So my ego thought it was a good thing to do to be in charge of that kind of a crew, and did it for a little over a year and realized I missed selling more. I like hunting and fighting and debating with other agents. So I went back into sales, and things got real good there. Um, Switched over from that brokerage to Keller Williams, and business grew even more. And as you sell more, you guys know this, whether you're in real estate or the finance end of it, home warranty inspections, it's a pretty stressful world to be in, and it doesn't turn off. For me, I was an avid motorcycle rider for 40 years, and I used to use my motorcycle to go out regularly for what I called wind therapy, just kind of let my head get its act together. And when you're on a motorcycle, you can't do anything but focus on what you're doing. So all the stress of the phone calls tends to go away. April 2nd, 2019 was the beginning of riding season again. Still pretty chilly out. People aren't used to seeing bikes out, and I decided it was time to take the cover off of one of my Harleys and just go get my act together. I had a couple closings that day, was doing a new build contract that week, listing presentations. For April 2nd, I had a pretty robust book of business that was happening right then and there. So about 4 o'clock, I decided I was going to go out for a little spin just before dinner. Called my wife to tell her, and she was just like, "Hey, maybe stay home. You're not feeling well. You have a cold. People aren't used to seeing bikes out. Why don't you skip it?" And I jokingly said to my wife, "Well, what can happen? I sneeze in my helmet and I get a bunch of slobber on the inside of my face shield. It'll be fine. I'll be back in about an hour and we'll have dinner." I leave my house, just riding through our town, on a street that I've been on a million times. Speed limit's 30, and going right through the center of our Main Street area. And I was struck by a driver coming in my direction. This lady was too busy paying attention to the stop and go traffic in front of her while she was eating an apple. She looked down because she had dropped it and was more involved with finding the apple on the floor of her car than she was paying attention to the car in front of her, who had come to an abrupt stop. Her reaction when she looked up was to just cut the wheel to the left at 35 miles an hour. And there was Arnold on his Harley coming straight in that same direction towards her. I never saw her till I was flying over the hood of her car. I was doing 30 miles an hour. She said she was doing 35. So that impact was pretty brutal. According to 6 witnesses, I was 10 feet up in the air and I flew about 20 something feet before I came straight down on the top of my helmet. That impact immediately paralyzed me from the chest down. I broke my neck in 3 places, broke my back in 2 places, broke my pelvis, and I keep saying 7 places, and my wife keeps reminding me I actually broke it in 9 places. broke both wrists that popped through the skin and broke my humerus in probably 20 places. Um, while I was laying on the ground, screaming in pain that I could feel up here, I realized I could not move my lower body, and I knew I was in a lot of trouble. But an interesting thing happened as I was flying over the hood of this Mercedes Benz. When I landed, I immediately had the thoughts of worrying about the woman that hit me. And while I was lying on the ground in pain, all I could think was to find out if she was okay and to let her know I was worried about her. And I was also thinking about my wife. So whoever that stranger was that ran up to me and called 911, all that guy heard was, please tell my wife I love her. And please let that lady know I'm worried about her. Find out if she's okay. And she was fine. Um, the EMTs carted me off to the hospital, and they immediately prepped me for surgery. Within the first week, I had 9 surgeries, um, high on fentanyl and propofol from 9 surgeries in a row. In that first week, they would pretty much operate on me, throw me in a bed, leave me there till the next day, and they could operate again. They slipped me some painkillers that first few days of Oxycontin or oxycodone. I don't know what the name is really, but it's a drug that, as some of you may know, is extremely addictive. It does a good job of numbing you, but it's highly addictive. My wife found out, and she knew I was not a fan of the drug. So we immediately had me removed from that. And I made the conscious decision to try to navigate through my pain without any pain medication. Um, because I didn't want my mind and my spirit to be muted. I needed to experience what was going on because 9 surgeries, which later led to another 19 procedures. And then after I got out of hospital, I've had 3 surgeries as well this summer. So I went the route of just living off of Tylenol and coffee, really, to manage the shit I was dealing with. And it worked, but it didn't really work. But I still, to this day, 20 months later, I don't take any pain medication. All of the bones are healed, um, but I still suffer. Um, I wound up, um, while I was in the hospital, coding out 3 times. Probably the second, third week, within about a week's time, I tapped out the first time for 4.5 minutes. The second time was 3.5 minutes, which tells me my doctors were getting their efficiency down. And then the third time, I was gone for about a minute before they revived me. It was right after that that I fully understood the, the the damage that was done to me, and I got to a point emotionally that I could not deal with it. And my best friend, who's also my attorney, used to sit with me every day, and I just told him I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be here. So we got the patient's advocate and my head nurse, and we had a conversation where I asked them to let me expire. And it was a hard decision to make because anybody that knows me knows I love my wife and my family tremendously, and they're everything for me. And but I couldn't go forward anymore. So I asked to be taken off of the ventilator. I was on a ventilator for many months. Turns out it was legal for me to do that. It was fine for me to ask, and they were going to unplug me. And as we were having this conversation, um, my wife, God love her, just happened to show up earlier than she was supposed to that day. So while we were talking about this, I told everybody, shut up, shh, don't say anything. Um, I kind of chickened out because when I saw my wife, I realized I, I should not be having this conversation. So I asked for time to think about what I had asked to have happen. Um, they immediately started sending me pastors, chaplains, ministers. I think I had a couple priests pop in, psychiatrists. Everybody wanted to know, why do you want to die? Do you really want to go forward with this? And I was pretty convinced that that's what I wanted because I could not manage this anymore. Um, and then one morning I woke up and I realized that while I was in so much pain, um, I was going to cause even more pain to my daughters and my wife. And I, uh, I decided that I wanted to live not for me, but for them. So I told them, I'm chickening out. I'm not going ahead with that. Let's just forget about it. So I chose to live. Um, what I didn't realize was the dying part was really easy. Um, it was really easy to do physically and emotionally. The living part I didn't realize was going to be so hard. Um, living life period is hard, but living the way I was living, I had a big battle, and I didn't know if I had the guts to do it. But um, I looked at my daughters and I looked at my wife, and I said, I can't let their last visual of me being a broken, feeble guy lying in a bed who's a quitter. Um, I needed to show my daughters that no matter what, you keep fighting, you never give up, and you keep pushing forward. Um, the funny part was I didn't know how I was going to do that. I just knew that's what I had to do. So I realized that the only way I was going to get past my limitations was to just think of one goal. And the one goal was to heal and to get healthy and to get out of that hospital. I was actually in 5 facilities. I spent 8 months and 3 days in a hospital facility or rehab before I went home, which meant I ate hundreds of pretty shitty meals um, to try to sustain me. Um, but it worked out. I lost 41 pounds within the first month of being in the hospital because I could not eat. Um, all I wanted to eat was fruit, and the fruit you usually got was canned shit. Part of my language. I told you my background was a construction worker, so I learned to speak construction worker language. Um, so I broke everything down to one thing: survive and then thrive. And all I had to focus on was physical therapy. My physical therapy consisted of 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. Now, these hands, because I'm a quad, that means my legs don't work, my limbs don't work, my arms. Um, I beat the odds. I can move my arms, but I have a permanent claw here, and I got like 2 good fingers here. That's about it. Um, the doctor said I would never move anything past turning my head left or right. Maybe if we were lucky, I'd shrug my shoulders. Um, that was the thing they told my wife when they told her to prepare for the worst, because we're not even sure if this guy's going to make it. Um, but being an Italian, we talk with our hands. So that was my first thing, was to get this back together so I could communicate. Because if not, I'm a mute with my hands tied down. So we managed to just focus on physical therapy. And physical therapy, I've said this before in other talks, physical therapists, that's not really what they're called. They're called physical terrorists. These little women, they're so powerful, but their purpose is to make you do what you don't want to do. And they put you through a great deal of pain to get you where you need to be. They don't They don't want to hear I can't. They don't want to hear it hurts. Their job is to cause that pain, to shake the rust off of all that broken stuff and get you back to where you need to be. So I'd go into the gym every day at the hospital, swear like a sailor, go through my 3 hours, and then go to sleep as much as I could the rest of the day and wake up the next day and go right back at it. And I did this, well, 8 months, I guess. Um, that was my only focus, to get stronger, to get the hell out of a hospital and go back to my normal life. Um, while I was in the hospital, very early on, I recognized that there were other people in the hallway where I was. They seemed to keep all the spinal cord injury people near each other. There are other guys and women in my hall that were pretty banged up. And emotionally, they were destroyed. Mentally, they were shot. And I used to roll down the hall or have someone push me. And I'd go into the rooms and try talking with my neighbors. And I would try to convince them to come with me to therapy because they just quit. And as I would encourage them or break their chops and just try and nudge them, I got to know them. And I realized a lot of them were in a lot better shape than I was, but they were just done. And a lot of them were on heavy medication, could not go through it. So I started convincing. I got one guy, my neighbor Steve there. I got him out of bed and got him in the gym, and he would be on the table across from me cursing at me for dragging him in there, but he made it out. So he did okay. While we were there with my daughters and my wife and my best friend, I said to them that there are people here that are far worse off than we are, and they need to help. So we came up with the idea of starting the nonprofit arnoldsride.org, Arnold's Ride, to raise resources to provide funds for people that were in far worse financial condition than I was at that time. Not that I was a rich guy, but I was doing a little better than the next guy. And so we started to raise resources to give money away to spinal cord injury people like myself. Get out of the hospital, was time to go home. And the one thing they told me about going home was that 90% of the people in my condition, especially after 8 months in a hospital, about 90% of us turn out to be drug addicts or alcoholics, and sometimes both, just due to the severe depression of going back to your real world. So here I fought to get out of the hospital. And what I didn't realize was I was going back to a reality that was far more mentally distressing than what I was in. I mean, for 8 months, I lived in a bubble. If I needed something, I pushed a button and somebody would come running to what do you need? Change the channel, give me some water. I went back to what I thought was normal environment, my home, my kitchen, my bedroom. But the unfortunate thing and the reality of it is that there's really nothing normal about my home anymore, only because I'm in this 400-pound cumbersome chair that I can't move because everything's in the way. The doors are too narrow. There's too many angles I have to cut to try and get into a room without smashing it. I learned I couldn't get to my coffee cup, the coffee pot. I couldn't feed myself. There was all of this stuff that just mentally just destroys you. So I learned very quickly why people turn out to rely on alcohol, because your coping mechanisms just are gone, absolutely gone. So my first goal was to live and then get out of the hospital to get home. And then I got home and I didn't want to be here because it was no longer my home. I couldn't do anything. So I had to get my head wrapped around the idea that I don't want to turn out to be a drug addict or an alcoholic. I want to thrive. I didn't live to teach my daughters how to, you know, guzzle a handle of Jack Daniels every day watching ESPN. I want them to see me get my act together. So I had to work on myself mentally. And it started with just being able to pick up a coffee cup out of the cupboard and then try to hold a coffee pot. The doctor said I would never turn my hands over, either one. Um, they were wrong. I figured out how to do that, but I never realized how damn heavy a coffee cup is because I lost all muscle. Um, my bicep and tricep muscles were impacted dramatically by the different levels of injury to my spinal cord. So I lost all like tricep muscles I don't have. Bicep muscles are just coming back 20 months later. I couldn't pick up a coffee cup. So I used to have to drink everything from a large Yeti cup with a giant straw in it and just sip on it. Um, Not pretty, especially if you had to go out in public. Um, but I managed to work on the coffee cup and the holding a fork again and opening up the door, which is still a major challenge, the sliding door to let my damn dog out, who seems to go to the bathroom more than I ever remember now. Um, but we would work on these little skills one at a time. Brushing my hair. Um, I couldn't seem to get my brush in line with where the hair was. It was just because the muscles didn't move. So everything I do requires thought. I can't just go do something. I have to think, how am I going to do this? Um, Psychologically, it messes with you tremendously. But the goal was, let's master one thing and then go on to the other, and then master that and go on to the other. All massive obstacles, all major disruptions to your life. Once I started getting my act together and getting some strength, then it was time to address the reality of, holy crap, I haven't had a paycheck in now it's been a year. My wife stopped working to be my full-time caretaker. So now we've lost two incomes for 12 months and things are getting slim. You know, all these financial planners tell you have at least 6 months in a rainy day fund. That ain't enough money. Not at all. You need much more than that. But we found ways to work through the financial stuff. And then I looked at my life and I said, well, shit, I don't want to, this chair can't be me. It's not me. My mind is still the same. My attitude is the same. It's just my body doesn't work. Well, and now I need money. So the only thing I could do is go back to real estate because Lord knows I'm not going back to construction. So we started to focus on how can I get back in the game. So I was very fortunate in the fact that for 17, well, at the time, 16 years, I built some solid relationships in the industry. In fact, I poured my heart into my vendor partners, lenders, title people. Didn't just rely upon them to do business with them, but really invested into their lives. You know, it'd be nothing for me if Jason was in my market to call Jason and say, hey, I saw on Facebook your boy hit a home run, you know, that's amazing. When's the next game? I'd like to pop in and see him. You know, I would do that with title company people, other realtors, just pour love into people because that's just what I enjoyed about our business. And when I decided it was time to go back to somehow sell houses, I had to come up with a plan. So I just decided, well, I'm just going to go back. And when I have appointments, I'll see if I can convince other realtors to go with me on these appointments. Being in a power wheelchair, you just can't get in someone's house. I can't even go to friends' houses unless they have special ramps, and nobody's doing that. Um, so I had to figure out how to convince past clients and new clients to work with a guy in a wheelchair and then bring with me another realtor who they didn't know to unlock the door, go in the house, show them the house. So I would show up in my handicap van, which the real estate community purchased for me through my brokerage, Keller Williams, the local offices, my lender partners, title people. In 3 weeks, they raised $90,000 for me to buy a $73,000 brand new handicap accessible van. Um, and then the rest of the money went towards things we had to pay for to get it tweaked a bit. Um, but I have 6 realtor friends that I can call any time of day and say, hey, I have a buyer need. Can you help me and show 3 houses today starting at noon? And maybe the first one can't go, the second one can't go. I go down a list of names, and there was always one or two who were like, I can show houses from 1 to 3, and I could show from 4 to 5. So I would send my buyers out with my friends, 2 different realtors going to 6 different listings to make sure they got in the house the day they needed to get in it, because in our market, house hits the market at 10 a.m., it's gone by 4. So I needed to be swift, and there's nothing swift about being in a wheelchair. So then I started getting listing appointments. So I would just show up to people's houses, park my van in the driveway, open the door, drop the ramp out. I'd roll out onto the driveway. I called the van my mobile command center, and I would bring another realtor or two. My realtor friends would walk the inside of the house for me, FaceTime me the house so I could see what was going on in there. And then we would have a discussion in my van. I'd pull up the MLS, I'd show them the data, I'd give them an idea of what I think the house is worth, what it should sell for. We would give them live right there information on what they needed to do to get the house ready for market. And then I would just start scheduling everything, and it would be done. Um, I haven't found one person yet that has told me, no, I can't work that way. I need you in the house, not somebody else. So it's worked out. Um, I haven't done, I started back up in the spring, late spring, early summer. I haven't done the same amount of business as I used to do, only because I'm not trying very hard just yet, because over the summer I had to recover from 3 surgeries. So that sets you back many months. In the meantime, my wife decided to go to real estate school, and she's done. She's supposed to be testing, but due to COVID, the state of Ohio has a little delay on testing. So we used to send my wife on appointments with my realtor friends so she could be like their intern and hear how the business is done. So now she's up to speed, and now all she wants to talk about is real estate, and it's kind of boring. Have 2 of us in the same business, but she's the face of the business, and I'm back of house. I'm the rainmaker, and I'm the one crunching all the numbers, negotiating all the deals, keeping the paperwork tight. And she's going to get to just, put on some pretty clothes and some great heels and out the door and go enjoy time with people. So she doesn't have the difficult stuff. She has the fun part. So she's happy with that. So we're becoming a team, and I still have realtors that are helping me. And now I started mentoring at my office. Bunch of us get tapped to take 10 mentees throughout each year. So I'm mentoring people now via Zoom or phone calls, giving them my 17 years experience on how to do the business, while I've never even met these people, other than like I'm meeting you guys this morning. And it's quite the blessing, because you have all these new agents with all this energy, and they're very needy. And I've had to slow them down and understand there's another way we can go about this. And they're pretty happy with my approach to mentoring them. So as you put in your title, Diane, working around the disruptions, over the last 20 months, I've had more disruptions than probably most of us here on this call. And I've never allowed my physical limitations um, to stop me from having this business and thriving again. Um, in a nutshell, that's the story. Um, Hope it wasn't too boring.
I love it. I actually had somebody say it was Bobby Shanks saying he would drive there just to have the privilege of showing a house for you. So, I mean, maybe you need to add him to number 7 on your list. He needs
Yeah.
a few hours notice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's very inspirational. And thank you for sharing your story. So, what is something that you say to yourself every morning when you get up, when you just don't feel like getting up? Do you have a go-to phrase? Do you have?
Um, it's the first, you're going to laugh at me. The first thing that comes to my mind is, holy shit, I'm still handicapped. I can't believe that this is my life. And I say it as soon as Christine and I wake up, I look at her and I'm like, excuse me. I'm like, can you believe my legs don't work again? What the hell? And that's a real reality every morning. The first thing that I think about after that is, how am I going to make today the best day it could possibly be, given the circumstances? I don't, people in this spinal cord world will tell me I've not embraced the fact that I'm handicapped. Oh, I'm fully aware of what's going on here. But I just have not allowed it to define me. My goal is to get you not to recognize the chair and recognize the man. So the first things that pop into my mind after, holy shit, I'm still handicapped, is really, all right, what do I have to do today? It goes right back to when I was lying in the hospital bed and my only goal was, I have to go to physical therapy today to live. Well, now it's like, okay, what do I need to do today to thrive? So just like years ago, you on Sunday nights, I would go through my planner, write my goals for the week, and then break my days down. Well, it's back to that. It's like, okay, I have to do this at 9, this at 12, this at 1. And I just go right, my mind goes right into the business. What do I need to do? Most of my week is filled up with doctor's appointments, unfortunately. I'm in doctor's appointments twice a week and therapy twice a week. So that really sucks up time out of my calendar. But my mind, like, I'm not accepting my situation. I'm looking at it like, screw this. I got a lot to do today. So it's just like when you wake up in the morning, Diane, your feet hit the floor and you're already thinking about what your day looks like. I mean, I was up at 4:00 this morning, and I was thinking about you and how I hope I didn't disappoint you and your crowd today.
Oh, never. No, we have a lot of great comments. You're very inspirational.
But the mind is right where it was. I don't focus on, this chair.
Mhm.
I focus on, what do I need to do? Now, granted, I can't do a whole lot. Like, for me to get into this office from my bedroom, it's a 3-hour production. I have, my wife starts off helping me, and then I have an aide that comes in, gets me showered, gets me dressed, gets me up. It takes 3 hours to get from the bedroom to this room. So I don't have time to think about anything other than, what do we got to do today?
Right.
We have some great comments. Terry Gander says, incredible mindset matters, and you have a powerful mind. Thank you so much for sharing. And the Sicilian in me loves, you have your hands to talk. And Nick says, how am I going to make the best day today under circumstances that I'm in? So you're getting a lot of good feedback, Arnold.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, we want to thank Arnold for being on our call today, and I'm going to share a screen of his non-for-profit. Here it is, their mission. We aim to provide support to victims of motorcycle accidents on their road to recovery. Additionally, we strive to educate the public on the importance of motorcycle rider safety and how you as a driver can better share the road with bikers. So if you want more information, there's Arnold's email address. There's his address if you'd like to send him a thank you note for coming. And then if you would like to donate to Arnold's Ride, there it is at the bottom, arnoldsride.org. And you have all his information if you connect with him. And Arnold, again, we just want to thank you for being on our call. You're very inspirational. Anybody have any last words, or Nick?
I just want to thank everybody for being a part of this. Thank you, Arnold. Thank you, Diane, for running the show. And it was a great meeting. So stay tuned for our next one.
Yeah, so in the comments, if you could put real quick on a scale of 1 to 10 what you thought of it, because this was our first one and I was very new at it. So just put a little comment, or 1 to 10. You won't hurt my feelings. And we'll let you know when the next one comes. Thanks, guys. Sign off whenever you'd like. Some of us are going to just kind of hang out.